Ooh, we're taking a live bet for the first time ever on the Ray and Adam Show. A live bet has been called.
Good part of the order. I like it. Let's roll.
Okay.
If you're reaching us from Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, you didn't get that call. You would have if you were in inplayLIVE. But while you're there, sign up and click the like button, and you won't miss that next one.
Won't miss it. Kernsey, sorry for fucking up your first name. I've only ever called you Kernsey. I don't even, as far as I was concerned, you didn't even have a first name.
I get them all. I had a guidance counselor that used to refer to me as Kevin Derns, so it's been a lot worse.
That's not a bad name.
Dernsey.
That name, Dernsey.
You know what's funny about that, Kernsey? I used to have a cat named Devin, was his real name.
Okay.
But we called him Kevin, though. So
perfect.
You got something in common with the old boy. Rest in peace.
Yeah, him and Regis both are not with us anymore.
Yeah, speaking of that, nice to have you on the show, Adam. You weren't supposed to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So I had a little mix up. It's the first time I've made a mistake like this since I accidentally we were pregnant with our first kid, and I accidentally signed my wife up for a breastfeeding course instead of like a neonatal course. And when the course started, they said, "Welcome to Breastfeeding 101. For the next 4 hours, we're going to be discussing all of the best parts about breastfeeding." And my wife looked at me and said, "Did you just sign us up for a 4-hour breastfeeding course?" And I said, "No." And then I just looked straight ahead, and then we waited for the first break, and then we left. So I signed up for a course for my day job. It wasn't a breastfeeding course, but it was the wrong course. And I found out as soon as I signed up, I shouldn't be there. So now I'm here. So we didn't need a guest host this week. I was, my screw up is the show's benefit.
I wonder if any of our guests are here to learn about breastfeeding.
I don't know. We'll have to look at the chat. I know I didn't come prepared on that topic, but
no, they're all here for Dernsey.
They're all here for Dernsey. Okay. Oh, Tim says that he's breastfeeding right now. He didn't say if he's giving or receiving, but way to go, Tim. Congrats, buddy. That's awesome. All right, let's get into it. So on last week's show, Ray referenced Kernsey as the phenom. Phenom is somebody who has a lot of success very, very, very early in their career. A lot of people don't have this story. A lot of people, it takes them a while to sort of figure things out with inplayLIVE. Kernsey, you didn't have that problem. You just started just walking in and kind of making lots of money. Let's get your background. Let's hear your story.
Yeah, kind of crazy. It, I was familiar with a sports book, generally speaking, right? I knew my way around one. Did a lot of the pregame stuff, your typical rec, throw $50, $100 on a game here and there. Ran across the Facebook ad, who I think, a lot of people have mentioned that. I gave the interesting part to that actually was it was, a free webinar or whatever that Pace had put together. I'm like, okay, I took the time to actually make something worth listening to it. And when he referenced everything about being live and value and this and that, he said a lot of interesting things. And I was like, okay. And, the initial price for jumping in was not eye gouging by any means. I think it comes out to $3 a day for the first quarter or whatever. Right. So, so I said, screw it, let's take a look at it. And I did. I think I almost doubled my bankroll in the first 2 weeks, maybe. And I remember sending an email. I was actually feeding my 4-week-old at the moment. And I sent an email to Pace and said, hey, this pro thing, is this worthwhile? I'm not really making this a full-time job. It's kind of just a hobby for me. Looking back on it now, it's the dumbest email I've ever sent, and realized that shortly after and decided to just join it an hour after I sent it. I think I made 4 or 5 units in the first 3 hours I was in pro with the Discord and the extra community help. And from there, dude, it just took off. I think I hit the first really large milestone in about 3 months. And then it just ballooned. I mean, I'm sure it helps that we've been on a crazy run the last 5 or 6 months too, but I guess I'm just a person that takes direction well. To be honest, that's really all I did for the first few months, right? It's just literally follow the pros, follow Pace, follow Kenny, join the streams. There was some that I even just joined them if I potentially couldn't bet anything, or if there wasn't anything going on. I don't think I've missed a minute of one. I just keep them in an AirPod and just listen. There's so much value in just listening to these guys talk. And then as it goes forward, right, the more people you meet in here, just the sheer amount of brain power in this place is insane. So yeah, and it's just
it really is like the collective power of this group really is quite extraordinary, isn't it? When for new guys coming in, sometimes it's hard to figure out who to follow, who to pay attention to.
Yep. All
those things. How did you, like, obviously, the main guys running the shows here, the Andrew Paces, the Kennys of this, like the guys that run the streams on a regular basis. I mean, that's obviously what everybody should be doing when they first get here. But how did you figure out, kind of who else to follow? Because it's almost impossible to do everything. So how did you figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, I took a couple lumps, right? I think like anybody does. You come in and you look at a few things and you go, oh, this looks good and this looks good. And then, I'll kind of reference the joining the pro thing, which is the kind of additional pieces to it. You look in and there's just so much volume. I read all of it. I tried to jump into a little bit initially, and I was like, okay, some of these are more discussion points. Some of these are more guys just talking. I like this, I like that. So I honed it back in a little bit, and I stuck to the one main channel. And then my biggest thing, honestly, I'm kind of a data junkie. Anyway, I'm a numbers guy and a data junkie, and I want to see what works, what doesn't. And from day one, and I still do it this way. From day one, I literally have to the penny of what my bankroll is at any given time. If you ask me at any point throughout the day, I know to the penny what it is. I track every bet. I update them at 7 a.m. every morning after I drop the kids off. Right. So it's a routine base. You treat it like a job. You treat it like an investment. And I track everything to a T, and then look at the overall data after the fact. I try to break it into by sport from the first perspective. And then underneath of those, you can track them out by strategy and just see what's working, what's not. And I look at edges. I look at, okay, well, I'm putting up this much money here, but we're getting back a 10 to 15% edge here. That's massive versus I'm giving away money in vig on other bets, right? So, I think go ahead.
How long does it take you to figure out something's not working? Like if you're tracking something, because like this has happened, right? Like and it's harder to happen when you follow absolutely everything the way you do. But for those who sort of come in and hit just a few of the bets, right? We'll just take a few. If you do that, you can sometimes end up with a better or worse result than the person calling the picks, depending on, like that comes down to just some pure luck, right? Like if you're on the right ones, wrong ones, whatever. 100%. But how do you figure out when somebody's working on a strategy or calling something out that's new to you? How do you figure out, how long do you give it before you get off the ride, before you recognize that it works, but maybe you've just gone through a bad statistical anomaly? Like, how do you diagnose that stuff?
I typically give it, I'm usually somewhere in the threshold of like 8 to 10 shots with one thing to at least get an idea of what it looks like. Sure. If they're coming in at 50, if they're coming in at 70 to 80, obviously the higher ones you're going to ride with. I was fortunate enough to get in on the ground floor of one recent one that's just been absolutely lights out. And so that one is, I mean, that's a ride the whole season. I think the biggest thing for that though, and I know other guys have mentioned this, is absolutely starting small. There's no reason to waste. Big chunks of your bankroll on something that's new to you. It might not be new to anybody else, but if it's new to you, it's new to you. Yeah. And until you're comfortable with it and are okay with starting to shell out more money into that, or more, unit percentages into that, then it's all comfort, right? That's the biggest thing with me coming into this. And I know everybody's got a different situation. I came into this strictly as a hobby, right? It was I have a normal 9-to-5 job. Well, it's not even 9 to 5, right? I travel, I work from home. I am kind of all over the place. And I like it, but this was something else to do at night when I had some other time to myself. And obviously it's become so much more than that now. But I think it's one of those situations where going back to your original question, you give it enough time to see if it's going to pan out. And if you got to have a short leash though, if they're not working, they're not working. Move on.
For sure. The data, all the top guys, they talk about, everybody's got a different method, but the top guys all talk about the importance of the data and the important, like Azan is a huge data guy. Coulter's a big data guy. Actually, Coulter, as you were talking about, don't bet too much early. I mean, Coulter is one of the more successful members of the group here. He, I think he bet $1 units for the first 45 or 60 days or something, just until he figured out if if this was working. So you don't have to come in and just, roll right off the bat, because you're following people, it does still take some figuring out for sure. Yeah. Kernsey, let's talk about what you did prior to inplayLIVE. Like, were you a big sports guy growing up? I mean, you're based in New Jersey, right?
I am.
Yeah. So you're lucky enough to be in, arguably the best region you can be in all of North America for what you do. So, some good fortune to start where you did. But, what kind of experience did you have? Did you grow up loving sports? Did you play a lot of sports? How did, clearly you have a background here. If you see a little pop-up ad and it, it's something you jump on. So.
Yeah. Cause my phone knows what we look at when we talk about, right? So, I mean, I sports has been since day one. It's been everything. From my perspective, I think I started at 3 or 4 years old with everything. I played everything under the sun growing up. Followed all the 4 major ones. Around here, you're born and bred into being a Philly fan. So that's where you start with, and you learn to live with disappointment. So Phillies, Flyers, Eagles, Sixers, we were a 4 for 4 house growing up. And I think I just jumped into it. I think I went to my first hockey game when I was 3 or 4 years old, and it was just one of those things you fell in love with instantly, right? I walked in, I saw it live, and I was like, okay, this is all you can do.
What era was that? Who were the big gunners for the Flyers back then?
Legion of Doom, man. Lindros, Leclaire, and Remberg. Those are my guys.
You had those 3 guys in your hockey draft. You were rolling.
Oh man, I remember I took Renberg that year in a regular season draft in way late, because he was supposed to be nobody, and then when he got put on that line,
oh my god, just insane.
Lindros was for a while.
Yeah, Lindros was my guy growing up, man. He I still can't talk about that game 7 in Jersey against the Devils conference finals. That was a tough day.
Scott Stevens knocked him out there. Didn't he come? Yeah. Didn't Lindros come back after a little bit of a layoff?
I think you're thinking of Paul Carriere.
No, Lindros definitely.
Did Lindros come back from that too? I know Correa.
If I got Correa and Lindros mixed up, then
that Scott Stevens hit was the comeback. That Scott Stevens hit ended him. I think that might have been his last play as a Flyer.
I don't think he came back in that game.
He was hurt coming into that. He had the concussion stuff going into that series. He came back in game 5 or 6 of that series. They were up 3-1. I remember this like it was yesterday. They were up 3-1. They wound up losing 2 in a row, got to that game 7, and then he got smoked, and the Flyers lost. That was it. I think that was his last hurrah. But he had crazy concussion issues leading into that.
It's too bad. I remember that team too. Jeremy Roenick was on it, like Sammy Kapanen, right? There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. We Recchi was another one of my big guys that he was a post Lindros guy for me. I actually had a couple buddies that were like family friends with the Roenics and lived around here. So some crazy stories.
That's cool.
But yeah, I grew up with all of it, right? That going to Eagles games, Phillies games. I think I was at the pennant when the Phillies won it in '93 when I was like 7. You Toronto fans out there, Joe Carter year.
Yeah, what happened next?
Look, it's not very often you're going to be on the Ray and Adam show, and Ray and I are on the right side of heartbreak in a sporting story. So what did happen next that year?
I was. My parents had a Halloween party going on during that game. Carter hit that, and there was a lot of drunk adults in my house the rest of the night. That was another good one.
Yeah.
So I mean, I grew up with all that. I played. I played pretty much everything under the sun growing up. I played tennis competitively for probably 10 or 12 years. Switched over to golf later, and it's just been. I've always been sports central. So I knew the games growing up. I knew the rules. I knew all of that. Later in life, I started a couple years ago as the big sports book boom happened, right, and things started getting legal around here. Ads are everywhere. You see them, and I started looking around a little bit at it, and I was mildly successful. Like again, $50, $100. Though I was thinking about this the other day. The way I kind of see it now is, I feel like the pregame stuff. You would go look at lines, look at this and that, whatever else. It was like a guy standing across a bar with a blindfold on, throwing a dart at a wall, right? And now walking into something like this, it's like you're 2 feet from the board. It's giving you all the answers, right? To know what to look for, to know what to look at. One of the biggest taglines I think I've heard Pace say is, "What are your eyes telling you?" Like you can't predict anything pregame, and if you're looking at something and your eyes are telling you one thing, and there's all of a sudden something you can do with that, exploit it.
Yeah. There's nothing better than when the game is going completely a different direction than what the pregame lines would say. Cause that's really where you hammer things. Like that's where we really, really make money on live bets.
Yeah.
The books think it's going to ultimately come back to what they originally predicted. And if you can see that, if there's a heavy favorite and they're out of it, like you can see when they're laying down, you can see when they're done for the day, putting their feet up.
Yeah.
And you can have a lot of success betting on the team that's losing, or sorry, the team that's winning to keep winning if they're a heavy dog in that game. A lot of fun.
Yeah. And looking at it from the flip side, there's nothing worse than sitting there with a pregame bet and I had so-and-so at -3.5. They were up 20 looking at an NBA game, right? They were up 20 and all of a sudden you're watching them fade and there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
The other cool thing with, again, from a location perspective is the amount of books that we have here is just insanity. Every one of them's got this offer and that offer and all of that. The other cool thing I've been able to take from this and some of the learning technique is the amount of bonuses they offer. Is there's some strategies to kind of harvest those and make sure that you're getting the most benefit out of them as you can. Yeah. And it actually starts to, if you do it right, you can actually build a really quick early bankroll and use that right off the bat. It's a nice little padded bonus as you're learning this, and as long as you're keeping your unit size small enough, it's a good way to start it out.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I remember, I remember hearing guys, like a year ago, and they were talking about, one of the sites would give you like a free $10. You'd get a $10 bet. Like, who gives a shit? But you could do it 20 times in a game, and you had like 50 of them they used throughout the playoffs. So that meant 50 free losers that you could, get repaid for. And if you won, you still got it. Like little things like that, it can really work. Sorry, guys. I think my internet cut off for a couple seconds there.
Oh, you're back, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like like all those little things, and ultimately what the data tells you, and this is where I think a lot of us sort of chase is you want to get those wins so quickly, right? You want to get them so quick, but what you forget is that a good chunk of your bankroll is built up over time with just little subtle wins, right? Like small statistical anomalies that you can take advantage of repeatedly and consistently.
Yeah. And it's funny. I was looking back through the beginning of my sheet earlier in the week, and like I don't even remember being there. It was only 6 months ago, but it's one of those things that you don't realize how quickly it builds. I think that's one of the biggest questions I get asked too is, how did you do it so quickly? Yeah. My stock answer is luck, and I just went all in every bet. but again, everybody's situation is different. I came into this with complete play money, for lack of a better term, right? It was a hobby. I had a fund set aside for entertainment. That's what this was to me. But you follow the program. So I was maybe a little more aggressive at the beginning, where, when you're starting out at $10 or $15 units and Pace is calling a half unit on something, or somebody's calling a half unit, I'm probably going to go full at that rate again, that's just me. Everybody's different. And obviously as that started to grow, I can't tell you the last time I put a full unit on something now. And then you watch, and to your other question earlier, you watch what works, you watch what doesn't, you find the things that work, and you go a lot harder on those where you can. And that's where, for me personally, that's where having it by sport and underneath of that, even by strategy, really helps, because then I can start to key in on those opportunities.
How did you convince, and this is like, it sounds funny to be saying this, but almost everybody who's got, family, wife, kids, girlfriend, all those things, everybody goes through this part, boyfriend, if you're, how do you convince the people around you? How do you convince everybody around you that they need to let you treat this like a full-time job, or at least more than what you've been able to do? Because it's hard. Like you've got a 4-month-old, you've got your busy guy.
I bet I can predict this answer.
Yeah. So let's hear it.
By the way, what's yours first? I'll hear Ray's first.
Yeah, I want to hear Ray's too, actually.
Well, it's pretty simple. Like, until the answer is results, and gifts and good times. But until you have those, you have to have your currencies. You have to be like, but look, but currency did it, Coulter did it. So am I right?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent. So I was a little quiet about it for a bit. To be honest, I wanted to make sure it was real. I wanted to make sure it was going to work. The first few weeks, and I think probably 3 to 4 weeks in, I laid out the conversation with the people around me that I needed to, and said, here's where I'm at. Here's what I've been doing, and here's what I'm currently looking at. And, the initial questions were, well, what happens when it goes south? And what happens when you start losing? Well, that's a great little run, but what happened? I said, yeah, it might. And if it does, then it does. And it's not money I'm paying a mortgage with. It's not money I'm trying to put food on the table with. It's completely side money. I'm treating this like whatever I need to. I kind of have said this a lot, but AirPods are the only way I've really been able to do this for most of it. I think my first 50 or so was literally an AirPod in one ear and a phone. That's all I used. I had a work laptop, which I obviously wasn't going to use. I finally went out and got, just a regular laptop, just something to have an extra screen, and I've grown it up a little bit since there, but I'm still mostly on my phone. The biggest thing for me though is balance. You have to figure out, and I'm as guilty as anybody about going down a rabbit hole, right? You're listening to a stream, you're looking at what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you realize you're kind of lost in your phone. That's actually something I'm currently working on, is being more present when I need to be. And a lot of the summer opportunities here are great because they're kind of set it, forget it stuff that you can throw in and then not really have to look at a whole lot. But it's a support thing, right? And it's a here's my plans, here's where I think this can put us long term. And I'm doing it for, when I started this, I was probably doing it mostly for me as a hobby. Looking at it now, I'm doing it for a lot of other people, because there are things that this could potentially provide that will get us a lot further ahead than I thought we were going to be at this point in time. Right. So that's the way I look at it.
No kidding. Yeah. I love it. I love it. And
it's funny how things change as you get better at your craft.
Yeah. It took a little bit of time and some convincing. I think the first question I got was, "I'm not visiting you in jail." Like, there's no way you're making this much money legally. Like, no, fully legal. We're all good. So yeah, it just, it took a little bit of convincing, and look, be it what it may, we're in a skeptical industry. This is it's got some stigma to it occasionally tied to it, right or wrong. It does. I think what the biggest thing that I've learned and have seen from this group in particular is how to be able to take something that has that stigma and make it really beneficial and profitable, because there's so much work that goes into being good at this. There's so much, I'll use the term brain power again. It just, the stuff that I see come across this, it's just blows my mind every day. I learn 12 new things a day just by reading some of these chats and looking through some of this stuff. I'm at the point that I've been fortunate enough to kind of jump in with a few guys and look at some tennis stuff now, and that's actually going pretty well. So like there's no end to this if you continue to adapt and find ways to do this. There just isn't.
Yeah.
Well, and you like that part? Hey, you like the cat and mouse part where you're always trying to figure out the new stuff?
Yeah. I'm not one that's going to be an inventor that's going to come bring some brand new idea that nobody's ever thought of. But if somebody else has one, I'm all about testing the shit out of it and trying to figure out if we can make it work. Right. I'm happy to be the guinea pig and just looking at numbers and trends and data and history and all, like, I'm all about that. I'm in.
Ray and I have been here a little longer, and had the benefit of, like, this year was our second season through most of the seasons. Right. So, and, our dad used to tell us all the time, he'd say, in this life, you have the opportunity to learn from the good and the bad. The question is, are you smart enough to learn from both? And so I really, like, at the end of every season, I would really try to reflect back on, okay, I'm not doing this again. I am doing this again. I'm going to do more of this. I'm going to do less of that. Things like that. Have you been doing a lot of reflection on that sort of thing? And then with that said, which sports season that'll be starting this fall, which sport are you the most excited about attacking this year?
So I'll take the reflection. Yeah, reflection standpoint, I do that every day. Sometimes within the day. I look back at a night and I'm like, okay, well, if I didn't do this, if I did this, if I didn't, you make mistakes every day.
Sure.
You're just going to, you're going to miss bets. You're going to knock it in on best of one, whatever the case may be. It's natural. My all-time favorite comment in this place is, who cares? I think that is so dead on point. And I take that into life. That's not even just this, right? Like, I'm an eternal optimist at heart. Like, it's just any bright side, anything, I'm going to find it. So having that mentality, you need to have that mentality. You can't go through a day, a week, a month. Let's be honest. Not that there's been a week or a month in the past 6 months, but you can't go through a tough day without having that. Like, yeah, okay, I maybe just lost whatever I lost. All you have to do is look at the bankroll. That's all you have to do. You look at that and you go, oh, okay, I'm way further ahead of this than I was 6 months ago. So
Yeah. You can always zoom out on when, like, oh, right.
Oh yeah, there's that. Right. So
it's funny you say that, because I didn't like the whole who cares thing for a while. Like it I was like it sounded like an emo millennial, right? Like some little donkey who just walks through life not giving a shit about anything.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to sort of wrap my head around that concept. But now, like, it made me realize you have to think of it like a golfer who just missed a 3-foot putt, or a goalie who lets in a weak goal, Mike Smith. Or
exactly.
you have to just let it go. Like, you just have to just go, okay, it's gone. I can't change the past. Do I know this works? Yeah. And then you just go.
Right. And, I do everything I can to learn from it. I'm going to look at that mentality, say, okay, I lost, move on. But there's always lessons in it. There's something you can look back and say, okay, well, next time, oh, he was looking at this, and maybe I should look at a different way to do something. Right. So there's always ways to dig back into things. From a sports perspective, I mean, just looking at the dollar amounts, hockey was just stupid. And I got here in December, so I assume there was only more to it before that. But that was my most profitable sport. I think the one I'm probably most looking forward to, and what really kind of sent me on the trajectory that I got onto, was college basketball. I think a few folks have talked about that. The strategies that were put in place for that are so self-serviceable. That's a word or a term. I was able to really take that to my own next level. And then having the streams only helped, because if there's 150 games on, you got however many eyes on the entire thing. So you can start jumping around a lot faster. That's where I really started to see some crazy movement.
Yeah. Are you a fantasy football or fantasy sports guy currently?
I am, yeah. Buddy of mine and I have been running we jointly run a fantasy team. We've been doing that for probably 15 years at this point.
Do you think having this year under your belt, do you think it's going to change your approach to fantasy? Do you think you're going to maybe care less because, like if you win your whole league, it's, a half a unit win in this, and I'm just picking numbers out of the air, but like, how do you think you're going to approach fantasy this year? With what you've got under your belt now?
It's an interesting question. So it's never really been about the money. For us in that, we have a very long history of this thing. We've never won the league. We've probably one of the best regular season. How long? 15 years he's been running it. We have hit every potential playoff issue you can run into. It's just one of those goofy things, right? So we've been chasing a title in that thing for forever. So that's more of a the money's long gone from that. It's been like that for a while, so it won't change my approach in that. It also isn't going to change your priority from what I'm looking at from this perspective. But I think it might actually help us, right? If there's more data out there that I'm looking at anyway, that we can take a look at some more fantasy guys and see what's going, who we like. But yeah, it doesn't really change much from that perspective.
It is funny. Like Ray talks about it all the time. Like Ray's probably the most successful fantasy football player I've ever seen. But now, like Ray, you don't even give a shit.
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. Like I still
generally what you say to me is I don't give a shit when we talk about fantasy. Like generally it's something like that. Unless we're talking about the big league.
I care enough to beat you.
That's true.
Yeah. No, it definitely matters. It's just
no big deal. I haven't gone 15 years without a ring. Just saying.
With fantasy football, it's the same as this. Like you don't look back at a lineup decision or a wager and say, "Oh, I should have done that because of the result." You can't manage the scoreboard. All you can manage is make the right decision in the moment. So that is what I have said about fantasy, and the same things apply.
I can't believe you're saying that after the move that I talked you into in our fantasy football final.
Yeah, that was absolutely ridiculous. It was. I can't believe I let you do it either.
Well, yeah, I blame you. Like, I'm the one that comes up with shitty ideas, and you're supposed to be the one that talks me out of it. And I did my job. I came up with a shitty idea, and you didn't do a thing about it. You just went with it. So, if anything, it's your fault.
Yeah, I'll take the blame. But I guess that means
you want to tell that story.
So last year, we're in a $1,000 entry fee league, 10K to the winner. Adam and I share that league, and we're pretty good. Like, we're a pretty good combo because Adam's always looking at trades, and that's something that I'm usually just not motivated enough to do. Right.
It's my partner's forte.
And anyways, we let a decision, Josh Allen versus Matt Stafford, as our two options to start in the week where I believe it was the week where
it was the Patriots. It was Allen versus the Patriots.
Adam lets Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I know Brady wasn't there, but he lets those two guys get in his head with every decision he makes. Like, as far as fantasy and football and betting goes. And I should have gotten
Stafford had this bunny matchup. Like, he's playing the BC Lions, I think, or I don't know, Shreveport Pirates. He was playing nobody. And when we drafted our team, we got Stafford when we drafted him for this week because Allen had to play the Patriots. And we're like, it's going to be cold weather. And then this was the first of two consecutive no punt games that Allen put up against the Patriots. He put up 48 fantasy points. And I think Stafford put up 12. And it cost us $10,000.
But I mean, that's a lesson learned at that time where you just you have to make the right decision in the moment. You cannot go into that thinking you can predict the future. But I'm a little bit angry thinking about it. You should have
talked me out of that one. That was bullshit.
Devin, I missed the pre-call here. So like usually we hang out with the guest before I get to know him. I feel like even without much chatter,
you got his fucking name right.
Yeah, well, you're the type of guy that I know I could go for lunch with and end up staying till supper and drinking a few pints and having a good time. You are I don't know, like the way I put it, like if you're gonna be paying attention to all four sports, you're digging into tennis, golf, everything else, you may as well be doing it here, right? Like turn a hobby into something more, like something that can change your life. So I'm really glad you found this place the same way I did, and I hope are you coming to Vancouver? Are you going to come to the retreat?
I cannot, unfortunately. We have a family vacation already scheduled that same week. That was from, I think, November last year, that I will not be able to attend. But I'm keeping an eye on any other potential events, and I will do my best to figure something out at some point. Because, seeing some of the recent pictures and chatter about, I think it was this past weekend, some guys got together. It would be really cool to put some faces to some names.
I definitely had a little bit of FOMO hearing about Toronto.
Right.
Did you hear Pacer tell that story about the dude that was a member for 2 days and he flew up from LA?
I did. Insane.
Did you hear this,
awesome.
Adam?
No.
Okay, so Pacer says on the stream the other day that some guy hears that they're all the members are going to be meeting in Toronto for this weekend. It's not even like a sanctioned IPL event. And this guy never been to Canada. He flew up wearing a parka because he thought it was going to be super cold. And he just hung out with these guys for the weekend. We got to get Coulter. Yeah, we got to get someone who was in Toronto last week, because I got to know more about this weekend. Oh, the chat's just going crazy.
Love it. Yeah, it was definitely a game changer. Getting to see all these guys in person and getting to know them. Like before Vancouver, I thought David Ducharme was a 27-year-old cocky asshole. I didn't realize he was an old fat asshole. So I've seen him in person. And I went from thinking, geez, this guy's an asshole, to, man, do I love this asshole.
Yeah, for sure. It just took all those relationships to a new level. I can't wait for Vancouver.
Yeah,
I mean, just it's pretty hard to put into words when you see kind of what's been created here, and the amount of people spread across. I mean, it sounds like the continent, the globe, even that have come together that share a like-mindedness on some things and have been able to grow this thing into what it is. It's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. Well, I like what you guys were saying earlier too about, like, if you're doing this, if you're putting the time in, like, why wouldn't you want to do it with other people? Like, the only reason you wouldn't want to do this thing with other people and learn from others is if you're either arrogant or you think you know it all, or like, because what I tell people is, like, you will literally be interacting with some of the top sports bettors on this planet, like some of the best of the best. Like, are you under the impression that you can't learn from some of the best people on this earth at sports? Like, if you can't learn from them, I don't know why you would even bother sports betting, because you're never going to be good at it. If you aren't capable of learning from the absolute best, what the hell are you doing? It's the greatest.
Yeah. It's funny. It took me a little while. I was, when I initially was having some conversations with folks around some of just a close group of people, what I was doing, they'd be like, "Oh, this is great. How are you doing all this?" And I'm like, I'm not doing shit. We're really talking about it. Like, I literally came into this after a week or two, and I think I almost doubled my bankroll again in like 2 weeks. So I looked at that and I said, okay, like, I'm just going to shut my brain off. I just, to an extent, and listen and take whatever somebody's telling me, because this is working, and whatever's happening here is something different. Yeah. And if you're not doing that right off the bat, what the hell are you paying for? If you're going to come in and continue to take your own stuff and, I do this, and it makes you, this entire program and everything in it has made me change my entire mindset of how I look at it. It's almost 180-degree difference of what I used to look at. The contrarian mindset that Pace talks about in the course is, that's where you find value. And you need to be you need to be okay with being uncomfortable with taking something. There have been so many things my first month and a half in that I've taken and said, "Oh my God, I would never do that. I would hate that. This is really stressful to take and watch and have to watch this." And then it hits and you're like, "Oh, okay. I guess that was easier than I thought." And so, you just need to flip that.
So you've had success going against your gut.
Yeah, a lot of it, which is not something I usually do in my normal life, but you go against it and it's one of those things that I can easily back going against my gut if there's a shitload of data that's telling me otherwise. I think there's been jokes mentioned about, the feeling. Don't look at a feeling with this. Look at hard data with value on the other side of it. It's pretty simple once you kind of get into it.
You reminded me of a great clip I saw from Seinfeld. Somebody posted it the other day, and it was George finally admitting that his instincts are always wrong, like always, always, always wrong. So he made an agreement that for 1 week he would do exactly the opposite of what his instincts would tell him to do. So like he walks up to this woman who's way out of his league, and he introduces himself and says, "I'm unemployed. I live with my mother. Would you like to go out with me?" Where's the Summer of George? Yeah, the Summer of George. Yeah. It's so good. So good. And it's so hard, right? Like, that's why I was asking about your prior experience in sports, because like I had so many bad habits that I, because I've been betting on sports since, I was 12 years old. And I was really shitty at it. And now I'm less shitty at it.
Right.
But like those instincts, like it's so funny. Like you go back to what you used to do and you might have a little bit of success from time to time, but like, it doesn't work. And there's a reason you're here, is because that stuff didn't work. So,
yeah. I was probably like every other rec better on the planet. Coming in I liked favorites and overs and this and that. And, this guy's 3.5, we can cover that on the road, whatever. It's just gonna change your mindset and figure out what works.
For sure. Kernsey, what's the coolest thing you bought with your winnings? To buy.
You've been rocking that Fred Durst hat since I met you.
It's the IPL.
Oh,
Rest.
Nice. Was that a gift or was that a purchase?
It was a purchase. I'm gonna need to make a few other purchases. I probably gotta reach out to Pace and have somebody do a scoop for me.
So let me get this straight. You've made so much money, you're about to buy a second hat?
I might.
I cut him off. I cut you off.
Put that on the commercial, Pace. 2 hat rich.
To be honest with you, I've not actually withdrawn anything. I haven't taken anything out yet, so I haven't fully purchased things. The coolest thing I've received, I would say, from this, I got a Peloton from DraftKings out of some contest that they were running that basically cost me nothing.
Have you used it yet, or is it just a coat rack?
I have. It's actually right next to my desk. I'm
nice.
Part of that balance thing. I've been able to drop the kids off, go to the gym, come back at the Peloton. Like there's, build my way back into it. A couple long weekends and mini vacations coming up that I maybe wouldn't have been in the normal budget. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Humble guy. Good for
You're like
you.
Marshawn Lynch, never touched a paycheck, just lived off his endorsements.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to live off of my normal paycheck and use this for some other cooler stuff in the longer run eventually.
There you go. Right on. Well, one day you withdraw some money, you get another hat.
Exactly.
The Marshawn Lynch of inplayLIVE.
Yeah. The phenom, the beast. Love it.
Yeah.
Right on. We're getting close to the end of the hour here. Kearns, you won't, I don't think it's tough to figure out, but what do you say to people who've just joined, people who are looking at joining, people who are skeptical? What's the message?
It's different. Just generally the skepticism part of it. Again, going back to the ad, you didn't see Pace driving up in a Lambo with a bunch of gold chains hanging off of his neck.
You did. I did.
You did? Perfect.
Yeah, he changed out of it when he hung around with us peons, but you should have seen him when he was
shouting at a camera, right? No, it's different. It's teaching you how to do something. It's not, hey, come take all my picks and put 1,000 units on this and that. It's a course. It's a lifestyle. It's and honestly, from a new member perspective, come in and just listen. Take it all in, get as much as you can out of it, and do whatever the couple people, the pros, are doing, and stay there just until you're comfortable. But I think I've heard you mention it before, Adam. Like, don't make the bogeys, right? Make the birdies and try not to make the bogeys. And eventually you'll get to a point. I'm starting to get a little bit comfortable with maybe looking at some stuff on my own occasionally here and there. I still feel like I need permission sometimes, but you'll creep out occasionally, and then you'll get smacked in the face and you'll crawl back in, and it's it's a grind and it's a learn, but you got to learn to enjoy that. And if you don't, then it's not for you. It's just one of those, I love it. I'm my wife, maybe not so much, but I'm happy to stay up to 1 a.m. chasing anything that I can find that potentially hits. And if you're not into that, then maybe not.
You're like Red on Shawshank when he finally got out of prison and he still had to ask permission to take a piss.
Am I allowed to do it? Is this an okay bet?
Is this okay? Yeah.
When you do post that first pick, I'm all ears, man. You make sure you at me because I'm in. I think you got it in you.
We'll see.
Have you called one out for the group yet?
I've dabbled a couple here and there, but more to this fact of this is what I'm looking at. I don't know that I've fully been like, everybody go take this. Right, I'm definitely nowhere near that. I've maybe put a couple eyes on things that I've been looking at, but who knows if anybody's following that? I don't know.
It's hard, isn't it? Like it's very different.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it's easier to take a 3-unit bet on your own and not tell anybody than take a quarter-unit bet and call it out. Like it's a whole different emotional experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll get there, but we'll see.
You can do it. I'm in. I'll tell you right now.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
if joking, the Pacer's already given me shit. He's saying 3 units. It was a joke. Please relax.
If you're sitting there listening, wondering if my pick at the start of the show hit, it definitely didn't. So it's probably a good time to join inplayLIVE because we're due. We're due. So
we've lost one in a row.
Yeah, we're lost one in a row, and yeah, whatever. Anyways, go to the website inplaylive.com. Punch in the Ray and Adam code. Go to Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you're listening on. Make sure you like and subscribe. Next week, I don't know who we're having on, but I think it's going to be someone who was in Toronto last week for the non-sanctioned event because I got to hear some stories.
I'm going to suggest that next week there will be 2 guests on the show, Ray. It's going to be our first 4-person panel. And I think we get a couple guys on from the Carolina 9. I think it's going to happen.
Well, I'd like to get, it's always fun getting someone we don't know. Like maybe like we can get someone that we do know that was in Toronto to introduce us to someone that we don't know yet.
Ooh, look at you go.
It's a decent idea.
Jeez. Impressive. Yeah.
Devin, what are you doing? You got a member guest this weekend, eh?
I do. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. My dad and I play in it every year. The local club here. It's a blast, man. It's 27 Friday, 18 Saturday, and then if you win your flight, you get into a little playoff at the end of that. Kenny, Riverton Country Club, Kenny, over in Sentiments, Jersey. So it's we actually won our flight last year. Funny quick story on this. So you win. There's 11 flights. All the flight winners go into a playoff. So there's 22 guys at the top of the first tee box. Everybody comes back out in carts. There's like 100 people watching. It's alternate shot, and you got to make par to move on. So we got on. I wound up with like probably 18-footer just off the fringe of the green, and rolled it to advance with like 100 people on the green. It was a top 3 sports moment in my mid-30s. So I'm gonna hold on to that one. We probably won't top that, so we'll see. It'll be fun.
That's awesome. Great.
Those are so much fun, especially with your dad too. Like
yeah, it's a blast.
Adam and I, that's the best days we've ever had playing golf with our dad. So enjoy the hell out of that because we wish we could.
Yeah,
we'll do.
It's the greatest. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for coming on, Kernsey. Great show. Couldn't be happier for your success. And frankly, like I'm inspired with how humbled you are, right? Like you're just so humble about all this. And you know, a lot of people, they have success and they start to forget what caused that success, and they start to deviate and they start to do things in a different way. And, your feet couldn't be more firmly planted on the ground. So it's really inspiring. You're a true beauty. Yeah. And hopefully, hopefully we can do this in person soon.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it, guys. And yeah, man, don't forget where you came from, and be thankful to the people that got you there. And that's all it's about. And just have fun. Shoot the guns, man. I love it. It's all about
win and have fun.
Yeah.
And if you think it's fun winning on your own, wait till you do it with a bunch of guys you really care about, right? Like it makes it so much sweeter. And there is so much love and camaraderie and just, it's just such a healthy environment. It's just, it's so awesome. So congrats, pal. Thanks everybody for tuning in this week. Next week's going to be a great show too. Let's keep her going for the weekend. I know, unfortunately the NHL is without the Edmonton Oilers for a number of years or a number of months now. So, I'm going to have to, it's good for me. I can put my fan hat down for a little while and start betting with my head instead of my heart, which I know is the number one rule. But yeah, there's a Leafs fan that just said it happened. I'm aware it happens. Yeah, it does happen. So anyway, okay, boys, thanks for a great show, and we'll see everybody soon.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.